Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I'm going to be your host, the Irrelevant Nerd. Today, we're going to be ranking all 37 MCU movies from worst to best. So, as I go through these movies, my plan is to talk 30 to 60 seconds on each of them max, or this video is going to be 1.5 billion minutes long, and nobody wants that. So, I'm going to jump right into it. The bottom of the list, number 37, I'm going to go Thor, Love, and Thunder. This movie is so intensely frustrating for so many reasons. The CGI is awful. The comedy is terrible. The goats are terrible. They waste Christian Bale. They revert the character back somehow. I don't know what happened to Taika Waititi in between Ragnarok and Love and Thunder, but he definitely needed to be reined in for this movie because it's awful, and I hated almost every single second of it, even from the opening scene when he's with the Guardians. Number 36, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This movie looks bad. The ending is terrible. Kang's just getting defeated by ants, and I know they ended up pivoting because of Jonathan Majors' legal troubles, and they said they were going to pivot anyways, but they were trying to hype this man up and then defeat him with ants. And apparently they were making changes to this movie up to a month before the movie came out, and you can tell. For me, this is the movie that broke the general audience and is why even these good MCU movies are struggling. Number 35, Thor: The Dark World. This movie is so low on this list simply because it is possibly the most forgettable movie in the entire MCU. Malekith is the most boring, plain villain you can imagine, and it's, again, another movie where we think Loki dies and he does not. So all the dramatic tension they try to build in the movie just kind of falls flat. It looks great, it has the feel of the MCU, but this, I think, was what, for a long time, this was kind of the bottom of the list movie, and it's still down there just because it's so boring. Number 34, we're going to go with Captain Marvel. Kind of the same problem with Thor: The Dark World is this movie is boring and it's not very memorable. It does not have a lot of jokes or one-liners that I can think of off the top of my head. Captain Marvel has no real opposition in this movie because she is presented to be the strongest character and only kind of finds out that she's stronger and stronger as the movie goes. And so by the time it gets to the final fight, there is no real threat whatsoever, so there's not a lot of tension. So the movie plays very flat, as well as Brie Larson's portrayal plays very flat because she doesn't have her memory most of the movie, so she's just very wooden. And I cannot believe this movie made $1 billion. It's really only because it was caught in the biggest hype time of the MCU, but it's just crazy to me. Number 33, The Marvels. I did think this was a slight improvement over the first one. The pacing is better. The action is more exciting. With them flipping their powers, it keeps Captain Marvel from being too overpowered in any particular moment. But the movie is a jumbled mess, and the villain is just kind of like a lesser version of Ronan the Accuser. So it's another one. It's boring, and it also is a movie that takes a lot of homework because it's a sequel essentially to Captain Marvel the movie, WandaVision the TV show, and Ms. Marvel the TV show, which a lot of people did not watch the TV show, so you really could be lost if you're not keeping up. And that's, I feel like that always works against movies. You should not have to do homework outside of a movie to enjoy the movie. Sometimes they can be expanded upon and help them get better, but they shouldn't need them. They should be able to stand on their own. Number 32, I'm going to go with The Eternals. This movie rubbed me the wrong way immediately. I remember walking out of the theater and just having this feeling of what was that? What a waste. This is definitely one of those ones I wish they had made into one of the Disney Plus TV shows, because they're just trying to cram too much in here, and it's just a jumbled mess, and it has all these twists and turns that don't seem to matter, haven't super impacted the MCU so far. I mean, they finally reference this giant hand coming out of the ground in Brave New World, but it does not seem to have a lot of impact. And I'm not even really sure if we're ever going to see any of these characters again, like even in the next Avengers movies. Like, it doesn't seem likely because everything just kind of falls flat here. It's a jumbled mess. Number 31, I'm going to go with The Incredible Hulk, in a way, the most unique film in the MCU because it's one of the rare main actor recasts when you have Edward Norton playing Bruce Banner here, and it was also released by, I want to say Paramount, so it came out of a different studio, so it does have a different feel to it in general. But this movie is not terrible. Like, a lot of people clown on it, but it's as good of a Hulk movie as I think you can get to introduce the character, and I would like to see another one to where they expand upon it more. But this movie is held back by kind of some of the CGI-isms, and it is a little slow at times and darker, which is why it is this low on the list. Number 30, I'm going to go with Iron Man 2. I have always enjoyed this movie more than most, simply because I just love the character of Tony Stark so much and Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of him, and you just get a lot more of it in this movie, and it does have some exciting action sequences, and apparently it has Peter Parker, and it's the kid that Iron Man saves at the end, but it is a mess. There is a definite 30-minute chunk in the movie where he's kind of locked up trying to figure out how to save himself from being poisoned, and it really drags the pacing of the movie down substantially, and I really wish they had been given more time to do this sequel instead of being rushed to turn around from a business sense. I get it, but I wish they had been given a little more time because I could easily see this movie climbing up the list because I do think all the ingredients are there. Number 29, I'm going to go with Captain America, Brave New World. This movie's okay. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say it is, but I do think this is a movie where the reshoots are very obvious with Giancarlo Esposito. He barely appears with any other characters other than Sam Wilson, and the pacing of the movie is odd, and the final confrontation is incredibly lackluster and anticlimactic. Doesn't seem to make a whole bunch of sense that this version of Captain America would be able to fight a Hulk for even a second. Even with the Wakanda tech, it just seems so unlikely. So I couldn't get into it. I had a really hard time. Number 28, I'm going to go with Black Widow, the movie that came out 2 to 3 years too late. I really wish this movie had come out between Captain America, The Winter Soldier, and Civil War when the movie is set, or does it take place right after Civil War? It might. Regardless, I wish that's when the movie had released, because it's hard to get hyped for a movie when you know the character is already dead, and so it's not going to be expanding upon this universe, that we're still fresh in that era after Endgame, and we're looking for the next best thing to latch on to, and then we have this kind of small story that devolves into just another CGI spectacle at the end, which does not look particularly good, and then they absolutely waste Taskmaster here. What an absolute waste of a great villain. And just this one should have come out sooner, should have been just a little bit better. ScarJo deserved better, we deserve better, because we all wanted this Black Widow movie for a while, and it just took them too long, and it fell very flat. Number 27, we're going to go with Thor. I don't dislike this movie. I like it. There are some things that bother me for sure. Thor's eyebrows being dyed blonde look insane. And it's one of those things that once you notice it, you can't not notice it. And it looks real bad. Pacing is really bad. It's another movie I think you could describe as boring. I like Kenneth Branagh as a filmmaker. I just don't know if his kind of slower, more dramatic sensibilities really fit the comic book world all that well. Like, it does have some nice character moments for sure, but overall, just kind of a boring movie and sort of a lackluster introduction. I mean, Hemsworth nails it, but really, I don't know, could have been a lot more of a exciting film. Number 26, I'm going to go with Iron Man 3. It's another movie that I feel like I'm much kinder to than a lot of people when I hear them talk about this movie. I understand that the Mandalorian twist is extremely disappointing. I don't like it either. But everything else around that for the movie really works for me. The comedy with Tony is top notch. His character arc is great. Some of these new side characters, like the kid they introduce, are great. And it does have a lackluster finale with Killian end up being the, ultimate bad guy that you fight. And it does get silly, but I don't think it's a bad movie by any stretch. It's just, it's a little much at times, and I can understand why it did leave a bad taste in some fans' mouth, but I've always enjoyed it simply just, I love Tony Stark. Number 25, we're going to go with Spider-Man Far From Home. And I don't know if this is too low on the list. I actually really don't know how a lot of people feel about this movie, and I don't dislike it. However, I do think it's a very odd Spider-Man movie. It takes place in Europe, so it's very out of place for a Spider-Man story. And there are just things like him getting the glasses from Tony Stark in this movie with like no instructions really of any kind or no safeguards put in, nobody watching it. Like, is Happy not monitoring this? There are things like that are inconsistently flat. Like, the Mysterio sequences are great for sure. I love them. I think the first one is better than the final one. So like, there is fun to be had here, and I do love Tom Holland as this character, and I like the romance between him and Zendaya in the movie, but I don't know, there's just a lot of things with the plot that seem really strange to me, or there are moments here that kind of completely fall flat for me, like when Peter Parker has to change in front of that adult agent. That's a very kind of weird thing to have, because like if Peter were a female, that would play very differently, and I don't know, it just has weird moments like that. So I never loved this one the way that some people seem to. Like I said, I don't think it's bad. There are some things that definitely hold it down. It is the worst of the Holland Spider-Man movies by far. Number 24, we're going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I've always really enjoyed this movie. I like the comedy of the Guardians quite a bit. I like the look of the Guardians movies quite a bit. And how can you not love these characters? And Baby Groot is adorable. But it is a movie that, one, it has a lot going on. Two, it does drag in parts. And three, it does feel like it skips over some very, I don't know, like intense story matter, like Star-Lord having thousands of dead siblings, and they just kind of brush past it for the sake of, comedic moments, which is what the MCU does. But comparatively to the first one, to me, it just stood out because the first one is really so good, and this one is just not as, but I do still like it. 23, we're going to go with Ant-Man and the Wasp. This may be the most just fun, average film in the whole MCU. It feels very low stakes, especially because initially when you're watching it, you're coming off of Infinity War, and it does connect very briefly at the end, but it is just kind of this self-contained story about Scott's little adventure here, and it's fun enough, and it's got Walton Goggins, and he's got good chemistry with Hope, and so there are things to enjoy, but there's nothing that takes it to that next level that really pushes it into like the top half of these movies, unfortunately. It is better than Quantumania, so there is at least that. Number 22, we're going to go with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. This movie, I think it is really good, and I think I could rate it higher if I enjoyed watching it more. It's a very heavy movie, especially when you know everything had gone on with Chadwick Boseman in real life that they did beautifully in this film. But it's a very dark, very, very somber film that is, leans more towards the tragedy side, especially for the MCU. And so, for that nature, because it does kind of stir up all of these emotions, it's not really one that I gravitate towards rewatching again. And it is unfortunate. I just would have loved to have seen more T'Challa Black Panther. Like, I have no problem with Shuri as a character. She's funny, she's smart, she has gone through a lot, so she has a lot to prove to herself, and that does make a compelling character, but I missed Chadwick Boseman a lot. Like, he brought a presence to the Black Panther, and I did feel like you could kind of feel that lack of presence in this movie. Number 21, Captain America, the First Avenger. It's our first look at Steve Rogers, and I think they do a really, really good job portraying a true to the comics version of Steve Rogers. Just this good man who wants to help, who does not like bullies, and feels compelled to do his duty and do what he thinks is fair and what is right, regardless of his physical stature. And this movie also has its own, because it takes place during World War II, it has its very unique look and feel to the movie that none of the other ones do. Like, none of the other intro movies in Phase 1, like, they all feel kind of similar because they're set in modern times, but this one feels totally different. I think really the only thing that comes close is the newest Fantastic Four movie set in this like retro 60s world. It has its own feel and vibe, and this movie does that super well. The only thing that kind of holds it back is pacing. There are some parts that are slow, and I don't think... I wish we had gotten maybe a little bit more attention paid to the Red Skull. I didn't find myself like super invested in what he was doing, but everything, like him becoming Captain America, was just fantastic. Number 20, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is a frustrating movie because there's a lot that I really do like, but there's a lot that I really don't like, and I love Sam Raimi, and the scenes that are very clearly Sam Raimi's vision and direction are fantastic. The rest of the movie that feels pulled together by that Marvel committee, the behind-the-scenes people that you've started to hear so much about over the past couple years, like the Parliament or whatever they're called, this movie feels all over the place in terms of just quality. Like, there are some scenes where you're like, oh my god, this is so compelling, this is so good, and then they go into this multiverse and some of it feels so scattershot and does not look the best, if we're being honest. And for a movie that's called In the Multiverse of Madness, I was hoping for more madness in that multiverse. Like, there's one scene where they're like falling through multiverse after multiverse, and he changes into like colored paint and this and that, and like that was cool. But then they go to a world where it's go on red and stop on green, and you eat pizza in the form of balls, and like it's not a whole ton of madness. So I really was let down, and I wish they had just kind of given the movie over to Sam Raimi and let him do what he wanted, and I think we would have gotten a much better movie. Number 19, I'm going to go with Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie I enjoy more than most other people. I love Ultron in this movie, and I am all about compelling villains. Like, some of the best villains in the MCU really do stand out, and people love them because they create a compelling story, a character that you can understand their motives, and somebody for our main like protagonist to defeat. And so he is the biggest boost to this movie. It's unfortunately, the movie is torn down by trying to set up too much going forward. It feels overstuffed, and a lot of the Avengers characters are kind of disconnected in the movie because they're off trying to set up these other things, in particular Thor. But I think there's a lot really to love here. For a follow-up, the comedy's great, the chemistry is just as strong, and the villain is better in this movie than it was in the first Avengers movie with Loki and the Chitauri. Like, I love Loki, do not get me wrong, but I don't know, there is something very magnetic about James Spader's portrayal of Ultron, and I hear that he is coming back for the Vision Quest show, so I'm actually really excited for that. Would not hate seeing more of him in the MCU, because I thought he was a really fascinating character and really, really boosted this movie for me. Number 18, we're going to go with Ant-Man. I guess it's really the only heist movie in the MCU. Like, I guess there's a heist scene in the Endgame, or in Avengers Endgame, when they're trying to go back and get all the Infinity Stones, but this movie is super fun. Paul Rudd is a super likable actor, and he fits this character so well, and I like kind of the small nature of it, especially when it came out. Like, I believe this was the movie that came out right after Age of Ultron, so it was like a nice breather, nothing incredibly too high stakes. I mean, the world is in danger, like the technology is dangerous in here, but I would have loved to have gotten the original version of this movie, because this is one they had been working on for like a really, really long time. Like, I think even before the first Iron Man movie, Edgar Wright had been working on this movie, and I would have loved to have seen his version, but what we got, I thought, was fantastic. The action looks cool with the shrinking technology, and I don't know, you care about the characters, and the comedy, really, it works a lot in this movie. Number 17, we're going to go with Black Panther. I believe that this is the only Marvel MCU or Marvel movie that's been nominated for Movie of the Year. And it's good, but I never loved it as much as a lot of other people. To me, it feels like very kind of a generic Phase 3 Marvel movie. There's a lot to love here. Killmonger's great. He's kind of what brings the movie up quite a bit for me. Chadwick Boseman does make a great, compelling T'Challa, but there is a lot that holds this movie back, in particular multiple spots where the CGI looks terrible. The final fight looks terrible. It's too dark. There's, I don't know, a lot you can't really tell what's happening, who it's happening to, and there's nothing like super emotionally compelling for me personally in this movie. Like, there is the sense of family, but I don't know. I never got the biggest emotional investment in it, which is why I think it's kind of just right in the middle of these movies for me. Number 16, we're going to go with Doctor Strange. This is probably the most formulaic hero origin story in the entire MCU, but I think it works, and Benedict Cumberbatch is what makes this character work. He absolutely nails it. Also, the visuals of this movie might be my favorite of any MCU movie. I mean, maybe, I don't know, the space stuff in the newest Fantastic Four it was great, but stuff is very, Inception-y and trippy and kaleidoscopy, and, they go into the metaphysical realm, and he has his, Dormammu, I've come to bargain line, which is kind of an anticlimactic fight at the end. Like, the only way that he's able to beat him is like one of the most memeable moments in the MCU. But as formulaic as it is, there is just something compelling to like about these characters and his power set. And I am really hoping that they kind of go crazy with him in Doctor Strange 3 if it ever gets made, and in the next two Avengers movies, because Doctor Strange is a super cool character, and I would just really love to see more of him. Number 15, we're going to go with Deadpool and Wolverine. I love this movie. It was so fun. It's just a great fun time in the movie theaters. It is fan service. It is a cameo fest. The story does not make a lot of sense. It is entirely carried by the comedy, but I don't care. I had a great time, and I just remember being in the theater and just so much laughter and energy and excitement for an MCU movie again. And it is the loosest of all of the MCU movies because it really is more of a Fox X-Men movie than it is an MCU movie, other than a few small references. But I think it's a good time. I think the comedy works. I think one thing this movie does show, though, is that Deadpool should not lead any more of his movies. There's really only so much you can do with his character, but if you add him into other movies as a flavor character, as a little bit of spice, I think he would be great. But the way the internet has turned on this movie after initially everybody just loving it so much kind of bums me out because I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. Number 14, we're going to go with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This movie is so much fun. It is our first kung fu action movie in the MCU, and a lot of the action set pieces in this movie are just fantastic. And really the only thing that holds this movie back from being a top 10 for me is kind of the just CGI boss fight at the end that so many MCU movies have turned into. I thought it was kind of underwhelming, even though it's very large in spectacle compared to a lot of the action wire fu that we had gotten prior in the movie that I really liked. I thought the choreography was fantastic, and I would have just loved to have seen a little bit more of that in the end. And I am very excited to see more of Shang-Chi in the MCU going forward. I'm very curious to see how powerful he'll be with those 10 rings when he's kind of fighting these other heroes and villains. And he kind of shows one of the biggest problems with the MCU over the past couple phases is we saw him in his one movie 4 years ago at this point. I have not seen him since. I don't even know if he's been mentioned since. It's how are you supposed to get hyped off that? You just see these characters and they fall into the back. Is he gonna be one of the Avengers? What is he doing? What is his sister doing? I hope they do more, but they need to kind of tighten down the schedules and get these characters back, because that's really how you start building that hype again. Number 13, we're gonna go with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I thought this was such a beautiful way to close out this trilogy, and it might be the best. Well, yeah, I would say it is the best trilogy in the MCU, except for maybe the first 3 Captain America movies, even though the first one, I do like it, but it is clearly not as good as Captain America 2 and 3, but I thought this was such a beautiful way to close out these characters and give them each a happy enough ending. Maybe not the ending that I would have loved for all of the characters, but I think it worked for everybody where they ended up. I mean, Drax was always meant to be a dad. He wasn't meant to be a fighter, and so I really loved his end. And I mean, we get the first the first F-bomb in the MCU, and that was fun, and I kind of liked that it was the Guardians of the Galaxy that did it. And the villain here, the guy is just the worst. You hate him. He's fucking torturing animals. He's just a despised, a despicable human being. You hate him. And so you do want to see him defeated, but again, it's another one of those movies that I don't always want to rewatch, because there's quite a bit in here that makes me sad with Rocket's past and his little animal friends, but such a strong way to close out, and I'm glad that James Gunn had done this script when he was still creatively in that mood, and then after 5 years didn't really change it and gave these characters sort of a proper ending. I'm sure we'll see most, maybe all of them again. But if we don't, it's really a beautiful way to close out a lot of these characters that he helped everybody love. Number 12, we're going to go with Spider-Man Homecoming. I think this is such a solid Spider-Man origin movie for the MCU. It's so lighthearted and fun and high school, and Peter Parker's reaction to the world and eagerness is just so, it's refreshing to see. It's got comedic elements, it's got dramatic elements of Peter making these bad decisions, screwing up, making worse, dating the bad guy's daughter and all of these things. But again, this is another one of those movies. I really love the villain, and like, he is just a dude trying to take care of his family. He's not trying to blow up the world, take over a country, anything like that. So it is much more kind of small scale, but that's what I like about a lot of Spider-Man stories. And I mean, I loved his introduction in Civil War, don't get me wrong, but what a strong way to just get him firmly cemented as this generation's Spider-Man. I loved it. Really don't have a whole bunch of complaints about this movie, other than I would have liked to have seen him interact with New York just a little bit more, but other than that, loved it. Number 11, and just falling outside of our top 10, but does have the potential to rise with further viewings. We're going to go with Fantastic Four: First Steps. What a breath of fresh air this movie is. There's no homework that you have to watch before. There's nothing that you have to strain to understand. The information is presented to you easily, clearly. The world is laid out to you very clearly. You understand characters' motivations. The actors' portrayals and chemistry are top-notch, and we finally get a great looking Galactus. Like, he looks fantastic in this movie, and we finally get one of the most powerful characters in all of Marvel Comics introduced in a big project in Franklin Richards, and I cannot wait to see what they do with him. Like, they're gonna have to nerf his powers. I'm sure they do that with most everybody in the MCU, but I hope they let him do some crazy shit and really show what he's capable of, because I think that's maybe where you gotta go to bring some of the excitement back, is you just gotta get crazy with it. You gotta get comic book with it, and I think that he's a perfect character to do that, and I do think there's a strong chance they're going to use this character to do that soft reset of the MCU, because he does have universal and multiversal altering powers, but we'll see. But I thought this was such a strong introduction for the Fantastic Four in the MCU, and like, I really cannot wait to see more of them and these actors interacting with each other, as well as the other established actors in the MCU, because they really just did so good, and I had the biggest smile on my face. Number 10, I'm going to go with Thor Ragnarok. After the first two Thor movies, I didn't really think that they were going to do it right. Like, I remember not being excited for this movie at all. And then they dropped the trailer, a little bit of Led Zeppelin in it, and I was like, oh, okay, I can see what we're doing. And oh my God, did it work. Chris Hemsworth has such good comedic time in his line delivery, and this is, I don't know what happened between this and Love and Thunder, but Taika Waititi had not fallen off the rails here, so like a vast majority of the comedy works. There is some cringe here. It is an MCU movie after all, but the action looks fantastic. Hela is such a fun villain, and kind of a cool look into Odin's past, and fleshes him out further and gives Thor more to contemplate about his family going forward, just more internal conflict for him to deal with, and he might have the most of like all the MCU characters. He's been through a lot, but just a fun, colorful, bright movie, and maybe one of the funniest, if not the funniest movie genuinely in the MCU. Number 9, we're gonna go with the original Avengers. I remember being so hyped but so skeptical for this movie, because I mean, back this time, the closest thing we had really had to like a team up superhero movie were the X-Men movies, which had been good, not great. Like, I'd really loved X2, but the X-Men movies are just a totally different feel than these MCU movies. You had the Fantastic Four movies, a little bit of team up there, but those movies were, lackluster for the time and not really what people were looking for. And I mean, you have Harry and Peter kind of teaming up at the end of Spider-Man 3, but it was really, how was this going to work? Like, all of their introduction movies had kind of a similar aesthetic and a similar feel, but they did not have similar vibes. And so it was like, how are you going to mush all of these characters together, give each character proper justice in the movie, proper amounts of screen time for what the fans want to see, and they just nailed it. The comedy, outstanding. The cast, outstanding. The chemistry between the initial Avengers cast is so good. And they just are very obviously having so much fun doing what they're doing and care about making a good product. And it shows. Joss Whedon was the perfect person to do this movie, and then they build upon it and make it even better going forward. But what a monumentally important movie for comic book movies. Like, had this movie not succeeded to the level it did, like I think it was like $1.5 billion box office, the comic book genre never would have become what it did. And I know it is shrinking now, but without this movie, we wouldn't have gotten so many of these great movies that we've gotten over the past decade. Number 8, we're going to go with The Thunderbolts. I love this movie. I've seen it 4 times, and I liked it more each time that I watched it, and the things that did bother me just have completely faded away at this point. It is the most emotionally touching movie in the entire MCU. I really love how they portray anxiety, depression, family, the importance of having relationships and bonds with other people, and having a final confrontation that's exciting without just being some big CGI boss battle. Like, that was a very refreshing thing about this movie, and the twist of being like, oh, and now they're the new Avengers. I'm very curious to see how that's going to play with like Sam Wilson's Avengers, but I loved this movie. I cannot recommend it enough, and I cannot believe this was a box office bomb, because I do think this was the best of the 3 MCU movies that came out. Like, it's not dramatically better than Fantastic Four or anything, but it's so good. It's in my top 10 of all time MCU movies. Like, it really is fantastic. If you have not seen it, please watch it. When it comes to Disney Plus, which I'm sure is probably going to happen here soon, watch it. I want to see more of these characters, and we need to show them that we do recognize that they are shifting the quality up, even though the box offices are still adjusting. Number 7, I am going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie is refreshing because it takes all of these relatively unknown characters by the general population and makes them into lovable stars almost instantly. Chemistry is great. Comedy is great. The story is fun. It expands the lore. You learn more about the Infinity Stones. It takes us out into space and shows us that this universe is huge. And you genuinely see every single one of these characters grow and kind of form this ragtag family. And I've always loved the ragtag family story. And the soundtrack, it slaps. It's it is the best soundtrack in the entire MCU. It's so good. It's so fucking good. And the music lifts this movie and moments in this movie considerably. The only negative I have about this movie is not even a negative. It's one, this is the tone shift of the MCU. Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of the first, to have this type of comedy, and it stuck and it's carried through. But I believe that this gave Marvel just a little bit of hubris, believing that they could turn any characters into these billion-dollar franchises. James Gunn just really was able to do something special with these characters. All right, now, number 6, I'm going to go with Spider-Man No Way Home. What a great service to the fans. I mean, the movie is fan service, but what a beautiful thing for Spider-Man fans to have is you have this fun multiversal story, actually pulls things from the multiverse, has these cameos, has Toby and Andrew come back, not just as small cameos, but as like meaningful characters in the third act of this movie, and just getting to see them interact and all the nods and references and just all the love for all three of these Spider-Mans. Like there will always be the debates of who's the best. Is it Toby? Is it Andrew? Is it Tom? A lot of it just kind of seems to be who was the one that you grew up with. But there was just so much love and so much hype for this movie, and it was really maybe the worst kept secret in Hollywood that Andrew and Toby were going to be in this movie. But the fact that they didn't put it in any trailers, and I knew a lot of people who didn't know that they were going to be in the movie, like being able to experience those in theaters was so much fun, and maybe like a top 2 moment of MCU theater watching. Like I don't know if anything will ever match Endgame, but this movie, it is so special and such a gift for Spider-Man fans, despite having kind of a weak first act setup. It is a special film. All right, coming into the top 5, we're going to go with Avengers Endgame. Whew. What a beautiful way to close out this saga. Like I know technically Spider-Man Far From Home is the technical end of the Infinity Saga, but this is really what closes up almost all the arcs for everybody. And the last hour of this movie is probably the most hype hour of any comic book movie of all time. This was the number 1 moment to see in theaters for the MCU. The energy was real. Like when Captain America uses Thor's hammer and it flies and the whole crowd cheers when it goes into his hands. Like it was so good. The only thing that drags this one to the bottom of the top 5 is the movie's just a little too long. I know that they have a lot going on and a lot of little things that they have to go, but I didn't find the time heist stuff going back as exciting as I maybe would have liked, but the way the movie ends, holy shit. And rest in peace, Tony Stark. Like what a beautiful way to end his character, and the way he does it, like full circle, just beautiful. Loved that I just got to be there, and like this really probably a once in a lifetime experience in movies, and I was so happy to be in theaters for this. Number 4, we're going to go with Captain America Civil War. I fucking love this movie. It's so fun. Almost everything about it works for me. Tony versus Steve, they fall on totally different sides of what you might think of Steve being anti more government and Tony being pro more government, but you get the introduction of Black Panther in this movie. You get the introduction of Spider-Man in this movie, and they're so fun. You get the airport fight scene, it is a super small war compared to what you get in the comics, but based off of the universe that we currently had at the time, how would you do it any better? And I like the emotional cruxes of this movie of Steve wants to protect his friend and knows that he was under mind control. And then from Tony's perspective, he wants to do what's right. He wants to protect the planet. And then at the end, even when he recognizes that he's wrong, he can't forgive Bucky, the Winter Soldier, because it turns out Bucky had killed his parents, and leads to the final showdown. And really, Iron Man won that fight. The only reason that Captain America was able to beat him was because Bucky distracted him a little. Had Bucky not been there, Tony Stark would have beat the shit out of Captain America. So I don't want to hear that debate, but whether or not you're Team Cap or Team Iron Man, totally different thing. I'm probably more Team Cap. But Iron Man won that fight, and this movie it's so important. Like it breaks up the Avengers and is a big part of the reason of why when Thanos shows up to the Earth in Infinity War, they are not ready. This is how the MCU used to build upon itself, is the things that happen in these movies mattered going forward. And this movie is so important and so good and so funny and so dramatic. And I love it. One of my favorite ones to go back and rewatch. Number 3, we're going to go with the one that started it all, Iron Man. This movie is the best origin story in the MCU by far. It is perfect in almost every single way, other than a few CGI spotty moments, and the finale is lackluster. However, I will argue that for a movie setting up a universe, the finale was not actually the most important part of this movie. It was building up the world and characters that you would care about going forward, and man, did they fucking nail it. Oh, I love this movie. No matter how many of these they make, this one has always stayed damn near the top of the list for me. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark is possibly the best comic book casting of all time. The comedy works, the action works, the ethical dilemmas work, even the final fight being lackluster, who it's against and why he's doing what he's doing totally works. I cannot talk about this movie enough. It's so good. I've watched the behind the scenes of how they were able to do some of the stuff using practical effects, and I went back and rewatched it recently, and really most of the CGI still looks so good. Like, they just knew what to do in camera and where to add with the CGI, and sets this tone and the look for all the movies going forward, and is really one of the most important comic book movies of all time. And even though it is very simple and could feel a little small comparatively to the rest of the MCU, because it does nothing but build and get bigger from here, it is still just such a fun movie to watch. And when you see Tony Stark in this phase, especially after you've watched all of the Infinity Saga and you go back and see where he started, it's a lot of fun. I still remember I bought the DVD for this movie where it's like it was Iron Man's mask that you'd open up, and it would have the movie on one disc and then the special features on another disc. And no matter how old it gets, this still has remained one of the best for me. I love Tony Stark. Number 2, we're going to go with Captain America, the Winter Soldier. This movie has maybe the most grounded feeling in the MCU. Like, it obviously has a lot of, fantastical comic booky, larger than life stuff, the helicarriers going up at the end, but the way the action is filmed and the way the story progresses along, kind of being this spy espionage thriller, and Captain America has to go into hiding and try to move underground as much as he can, is just holy shit. Like, it's probably the least cringy movie in the entire MCU in terms of comedy. It takes itself seriously, and it puts Steve in such a great ethical dilemma of this man who wants to serve his country, but then when he sees this organization that he's working for making decisions that don't seem to be actually good decisions, does he just fall in line like a good soldier, or does he stand on principle and try to do what's right regardless of all that they throw at him? And the reveal of Bucky Barnes being the Winter Soldier was so fun. Like, that was back during the times of the MCU where you still had to guess a lot of that stuff, and there were people who were more familiar with the comic books. Like, I figured it was going to be, but it was just a lot of fun. And the action in this movie, the way that it's portrayed with Captain America, I think it's the best portrayal of his strength in any movie that Captain America is in. Like when he's kicking dudes on the boat and they're flying back and slamming into the wall and stuff. It's not like Superman. They're not exploding through the wall or anything like that, but super fucking strong dude, and what he can do with his shield is so fun. And yeah, a lot of the practical effects and fight scenes in this movie are really what elevate it. It really stands on its own. But coming in at number 1, the beginning of the culmination of the end, we have Avengers: Infinity War. I like this movie dramatically more every single time I watch it. I think the pacing is perfect. I think the CGI is perfect. I think the way that the characters move throughout the movie are like so compelling. You care where they're going, what's happening to them. When Gamora dies, you feel it, and what a beautiful way to. So like I know Endgame is the one, but this is the one that had the most pressure. It had to prove that you could piece this entire universe together, and then Endgame just had to kind of come in and do it again. And the Russos just crafted such an amazingly compelling movie from the very opening scene when you have Thanos coming in and beating the shit out of Thor and Loki and the Hulk and killing people like right on the first scene. You have Loki die, you have Heimdall die. The stakes are real, and I mean, ultimately they do come back, but the good guys lose. Like, Thanos is victorious, and Thanos is the best villain in the MCU because, one, he had build up for years. Two, you do understand his motivation, even if you don't agree with it. Like, really, why not double the resources instead of halving the population? But anyways, like, I'm sure there's some scientific reason that wouldn't actually work and would, like, overbear the planets or whatever. But what a flawless way to bring this universe together and mesh all these characters, tones, and franchises and give you just such epic hype moments throughout the entire thing and just such an emotional punch at the end as everybody's fading into dust. And you knew that they were going to get them back, not all of them, but you knew that they were going to get a big chunk of those characters back, but it just left you sitting in theaters being like, what the fuck? And I've not felt the same way, even like in that final hour of Endgame. Like, it's fantastic, don't get me wrong, but I still remember watching this movie. And even though Tony Stark does die in Endgame, when he gets stabbed in this movie, I remember gasping in theaters, as like a lot of people did, because I thought for sure he was going to die. And just the hype around 2018, 2019 MCU was so real, and I miss it. But this movie, I love. Like, my top 10, obviously, really everything, I love them all. Like, I enjoy them all to a certain bit, except for like the bottom 5. But Infinity War, just every time I watch it, it gets better and better and better, and it's starting to pull away to be like, it's much better. Like, it's not even close. Like, I love Winter Soldier, I love Iron Man. This is the best. It's not even close. Let me know what you guys think. This is a lot of movies to rank. It's 37 now, so if you want to comment a whole list of 37, I would love to see it. I love comparing my list with my friends because ours are all wildly different. Like, we'll have some similarities at the tops and bottom usually, but I always love debating and kind of seeing what they did. And if you don't want to do that much, what's your top 3, bottom 3, top 5, bottom 5, whatever you want to do. I just want to see... Yeah, I just want to talk about it with other people. That's the whole reason I'm doing this. So let me know your ranking going forward. And we're a year out from another MCU movie. It's just why it seemed like the perfect time to do this. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.